it's like, not early morning, but, around 10 o'clock. So we have a little time difference. But
yeah.
isn't it wonderful that we can, connect now via the Skype connection? That's cool.
Exactly. And I suppose I can start by asking, are you safe at the moment, and how are you coping with lockdown?
Yeah, as such, it's not a full lockdown here in Denmark. It's like certain shops are not allowed to have open, and, we can still do all the grocery shoppings and supermarkets. And I'm fortunate that I'm a bit south out the city, more kind of country-like. So, daily life is basically as it used to be for me. But the drummer from Mercyful Fate, he's like in the downtown Copenhagen, living third floor to the right or to the left, sitting with his wife and kids. So that's a different, a little more stressful another situation. But I'm fine here.
Yeah, we're in full lockdown here. We're only allowed out to go to the grocery store, the chemist, doctors, or if you're an essential worker, everybody else has to stay home. So yeah, working from home at the moment.
Yeah, that's definitely something else. I mean, this totally curb out all shows for 2020, I predict. And as it looks now, all shows, Mercyful Fate shows, looks to be cancelled. We might have an option in November maybe, but I mean, who knows how it looks at that time.
Yeah. So, from a creative point of view, how are you going to spend the lockdown? Will you guys be working on some new material, or what will actually happen during that time?
Yeah, since we are, first of all, King is living in Texas in the States. I'm living here in Copenhagen, north of Copenhagen in Denmark. Drummer is also here, so I work with him, in the rehearsal room, shaping the songs, new songs. The other guitar players in Stockholm, Sweden, and then our new bass player is in Los Angeles. So everything is like, of course, via, let's say, Dropbox or emails. But I have been working on, at least 18 months, the last 1.5 years on new Mercyful Fate songs.
Yep.
And I think there's about 6 or 7 about to be ready. The first song has been sent to King, after it's been mixed and all the guys played on the song. So I sent the files to Joe in Los Angeles. He did the bass, and then I sent the same files to Mike in Stockholm. He did his solos and so on. And now King has the first song evaluating for the vocals to be added, maybe, and then we will rearrange certain parts to be twice as long and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, we cannot wait to hear the new material, but I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about these reissues and what fans can expect from these reissued albums.
Yeah. The slogan, if you will, is like back to the originals, meaning that these releases here are untouched. These are, we were so lucky, to get hold of the original production masters that were sent to the record company back in 82, 3, and 4. And those has been acquired from Warner Brothers. They had them in the vault, and then Mesoblade had the opportunity to buy up the old catalog, and all these master tapes, they were part of the deal. And so we just decided to let them be as they were intended to be back then. So the only thing has been done is that they have been digitized, and then it's going to be released on CD. It's going to be released on vinyl as well, and all the album artwork is exactly as it was back then. So I know these same albums have been released before, but that's more like from Roadrunner, who wanted to cash in a bit and did some special digipacking and totally destroyed it in the mastering, so it sounded awful. So for that reason, we just wanted this time to do it the right way.
Yep.
Keeping it totally original.
What was it like for you to go back and listen to these tracks the way that they were originally recorded? Was that a time for you to reminisce a little bit when you went back and took a listen to them?
Yeah, I mean, of course, they are our, early children, and started our career. And it was a good time, and we were in our early 20s, mid-20s when all that happened. We did the mini album, the Melissa and Don't Break Those, year after another. I listen to them, especially now I've been listening to them because I've been preparing to play them live.
Yep.
And I've been carefully listening to them, so I'm not missing any note or maybe because recently I found out that I played one riff slightly different than it was on all the versions I've heard we recorded. So I finally corrected that little detail, but. And so it's always like cool, when you get a kick out of listening to your own songs 35 years later or even more. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So flashing back to almost 40 years ago, if someone had said to you back then that Mercyful Fate would still be going in 2020, doing shows and writing new material, what would you have said to them?
Yeah, I don't think any band at that time had, no one knew that any a rock band could last that long. So now here we are, 40 years later, and you have, let's say, Rolling Stones still going strong, kind of, right? And then, if you're talking about heavy metal bands, you have Judas Priest. You had Black Sabbath just, saying you and goodbye, but I mean, so that, of course, gives, seen from today's perspective, gives us some hope that we at least can continue this new beginning, sort of speak, to at least, at least 5 years or more. So, but back then, no one, we were living in the right now. I mean, we were living in the present, like, not in the past or in the future, not thinking too far ahead. I mean, everything was right now, and that was the beauty of it all back then. Of course, we had some plans. Oh, we're going to do a new album next year. Hopefully, we'll tour the United States, and then that happened. And so you're not thinking even remotely 5 or 6 or 7 years ahead of you.
What was the music industry like back then for you? Like, what happened for you guys to actually get that first recording contract, and what did that mean to you when you got that first recording contract?
Yeah, back then it all, I guess, it was all about to getting a recording contract. Then you kind of almost feel like that you have made it. So we we made our first demo recording, which were April 1981, which turned out to be two Mercyful Fate songs, and then we did another one at the end of that year. Then I think we did 3 or 4 demo tapes, and eventually those demo tapes were floating in Holland and in San Francisco for some reason, and eventually we got approached by a Dutch record label who offered us to record an EP, 4-song EP, and we signed the contract, and we felt like, wow, now we made it, kind of. That's how it worked back then, and then we drove a Volkswagen down to Holland with Marshall cabinets on top of the roof, and to a city called Eindhoven, and then to a where the studio was, a city called Rosendale, and recorded the 4 songs there, and it took about 2 or 3 days. So, but I mean, it has always been a love-hate relationship with labels, because basically they have been screwing bands, from day one, right?
Yeah.
Regarding, let's say, royalties, package deduction, and a lot of other crap that's put into the contract, which comes from, I think, early versions of the 40s and 50s record contracts. So they just kept keeping those paragraphs in. So there's always been a love-hate relationship between labels and the bands, and we definitely have had our fights through the years with mostly every Roadrunner, Metal Blade, for this and that, and the other bands I have been in, there has also been discussions and a lot of things we didn't agree on, and yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I could talk to you about that all night, but I know we are running out of time very, very quickly. So I'd love to ask, before I go, where to now for you guys? You're working on new material. You've got tours coming up later in the year. Is there any chance that we might see you in Australia sometime in the next few years?
I definitely hope that since we now are backed by a really cool booking agency in New York, AGI. We have a cool management in Los Angeles, 5B. I mean, those details should help propel the band to, out to Australia, among other continents. Mercyful Fate did South America, we did the US and Europe, but we Australia, and even Not King Diamond Band have been in Australia, and the same goes for Japan. But I mean, first I think we will focus on the big festivals in Europe, maybe do a solo tour in the States and in Europe next year, and then the agency will, when we have I think like a good possibility. When a new album is released, hopefully next year, I think that should give a good foundation for us to take it, hopefully, all the way to Australia. I mean, that would be a dream scenario. A lot of bands have been down there, and one of my favorite Australian bands, AC/DC, is coming from the area, right? So,
yep.
So that's some kind of connection. I saw AC/DC in 1977 as a support band for Black Sabbath, and they totally blew Black Sabbath away. It was like, wow! I was so mesmerized to see, wow, my goodness, what just happened here?
Yep.
So I went home, and then the next morning went up early and took the train to Copenhagen. And literally ran down to the record shop looking for AC/DC albums. It was that big impact it actually had at that early age. I was there, so
wow,
pretty cool.
Yeah, and AC/DC have been back in the studio just recently, so we're eagerly waiting to see what those studio sessions are going to bring us as well. Yeah. Well, mate.
That's.
Thank you so much for chatting to us tonight. I know we are right out of time and you've got other interviews to get to, but thank you so much for chatting to us.
Okay, David. Nice talking to you, and hopefully seeing you maybe next year.
Definitely, mate. All right, we'll see you then. Okay.
Sure. Bye.
Bye. Stay safe.